Good afternoon. I'm so excited to have you all here for the latest Teams Tips at 2. This is our first extension from our June sessions. I hope you all enjoyed the music. That was a new thing for us to try today. We've scheduled these sessions all the way through July and have ideas coming in already for August. So we're thrilled that these have been useful to campus and hope to continue to offer value and look for new ways to support you while working from home. Right now, I show we have about 40 people attending today's session. I know we had about 60 registered, so we'll just let those trickle in. I hope you found value in these and that you will consider sharing the information about the resources that we provide and encouraging your coworkers to join in. Just a few housekeeping notes in case this is your first live event. Closed captioning is available. You can select that from the bottom right corner of your screen to turn on. And Teams Live allows for instant language translation, up to 6 languages. So that's something to keep in mind when you plan events. To chat with me or to ask me questions, please enter your comments in the live event Q&A. We have a welcome post already shared there. So if you'll just take a moment to please like that post, that just reassures me that you have found it and that you are able to interact in case you do need anything from me. So right now, I only see 2 that have liked that post. It's under the little question box, and it should be on the, I believe it's the bottom right for y'all. If you hover over, there should be some little icons there in the Q&A. So it'll say live event Q&A under the question. Okay, I see a little more coming in now, so that's fantastic. So that just shows me that you can submit your comments, your questions. If there's something that I'm not clear about, that is your voice. So please use it whenever you need to. Okay, awesome. So also, I wanted to let you know that this session will be recorded and I'll send it out shortly after. So if you need to review any content, you may do so later. And I will send you the slide deck so you have that information as well. Okay. So if you haven't attended a session previously, I'm Amanda Pritchard, the Events and Outreach Specialist in OIT, which is the Office of Information Technology. I have the absolute privilege of working there. It's a fantastic way to support campus and to be able to be engaged with all of you. So I actually started 7 months ago yesterday. So I'm fairly new to UTD. I am an alum, and so my heart is just completely sold on campus. I do have a background in marketing. That's kind of what I've done. I've worked at various universities. So today's session is completely my heart. I love getting to share some of these tips and tricks on communicating because that's what I typically do in my role. So these sessions were kind of my brainchild when I started realizing how many people on campus did need assistance and did need more information. So I really do truly hope that you find these valuable. It was kind of a new concept that we pitched, and I would love to see it being used. So let's see, can we go to the next slide, please? Today's session will not cover how to schedule or run or prepare for a live event. We do have information covering those details that you're welcome to reference or to go back and to review. So you can find sessions and how-to guides listed on OIT's website. Let me go ahead, I'll get that link posted in our chat for you all today. So there's recordings there of previous sessions that go into full details of setting up and producing Teams live events. I've also worked with other areas on campus, and I've come up with a number of how-to guides. So you'll see those in the slide. Those are just some quick snapshots, and those are listed on that website on the right-hand column of the page. Those are intended to be quick guides to help ensure your live event is set up without an issue. So since we already have those created, we're not going to be touching on that content today. Next, we're going to be talking about how do you market a Teams live event. So today we're going to be discussing the marketing and communicating of live events and virtual events. And I'm going to start with this disclaimer that what I tell you may already be what you're doing for events. You may already have a perfectly seamless structure in place for communicating and for marketing. And every event, every department, and every audience is different. So the suggestions I have may need to be tailored to best fit your areas and your unique needs. However, I will also say that after working with various areas, I noticed that many people are now hosting virtual events that had not been doing so previously, and they're not familiar with how to communicate and market those virtual events. So if y'all would help me assess your comfort level, I have a couple of options that are going to be posted in the Q&A. There's going to be 3 choices listed there. And once we get those up, I want you to take a moment and look and tell me what you feel is your comfort level right now with virtual events. So I'm waiting to see those go up. And then I want, as soon as those go up, let's see here, perfectly. So we've got 1 posted and we've got 2 more coming. So if you routinely host live events, if you feel totally confident in planning communications, feel like you're swimming in your own lane, that's great. And maybe you have some pointers that you can share with the rest of us, because I know there's always new things to learn. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. Let's see here. We've got, okay, excellent. The next one went up too. I'm just getting a little bit of a lag here. So like the post, if your marketing events is relatively new to you and you feel like you've been thrown in the deep end, I've heard that a lot, that people just don't really know what to do right now. And finally, the last post, like the post, if you don't know the best ways to market and your event and you feel like you're drowning, and don't worry, I said, disclaimer, we will throw you a life preserver. You're not going to just be out there on your own. So I'm looking to, so we've got a few really confident folks out there, and that's fantastic. I did see some of you that registered, and I was a little surprised because I was like, I could be learning from you all. But it looks like the average response right now is that people are, it's relatively new and you may not be familiar with how to market a live event. So I appreciate y'all kind of responding. That's our quick poll so that I can understand what your needs are. Now that I have that, if you're one of those people that identify with having the attention span of a goldfish, I will try to keep moving and keep this as entertaining as possible, as much as training can be. So we'll move along there, because it looks like most of you guys are wanting some help getting out of the deep end. So the next topic that we're going to cover is just kind of a marketing schedule. When you start with your marketing schedule, this is going to assume that you already have a date, a time, and a goal of your event. So one step that many people miss is clarifying a specific goal, the why of your event. Understanding the intent of your meeting is critical, because that determines all of your outreach and your communication to potential attendees. So this slide has a generic schedule that I personally use for virtual events for marketing them. And now again, I did disclaim that some of you may already have it ironed out perfectly, and for some bigger conferences, you may need to start a little further back. What I typically do when I start marketing for an event is I start at the event date and I work backwards, and I think through, how does my audience need to be communicated with in a timely manner that ensures that they are well informed and engaged. So this is my generic schedule, and it does vary by your audience. And that's going to be unique to every department, depending on if you have a group that is highly engaged, if you have a group that's like students, and right now you can't incentivize them with food, so you have to come up with other ideas to get their attention and to keep them coming to your event. That may be a little bit more challenging for you to communicate with those groups. But in general, I like to go ahead and have that plan ready. I'm going to pull it up on my screen over here. And develop that initial marketing plan, so that way you know exactly what needs to happen. And I write that out in an actual plan, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But part of your marketing schedule too, you should confirm that you don't have a conflict with any other major events. So I always check the Comet Calendar, all of my team, we share calendars, and I have access to the senior leadership's calendars to see. So always check to make sure that there's no conflicts or even conflicts with other departments. So you can scan online and just take a quick look and make sure that you're not proposing an event at a time that, that there's an HR forum or perhaps a presidential event, which is going to detract from your audience base. So you can look at those to kind of determine your best timing. And then from the very beginning, once we have a date set, I go ahead and I put that on all of the leaderships and the speakers' calendars, get that information to them, have that save the date sent out initially. So I'm going to pause for just a second, because I know in working with some of the groups, some people were surprised that actually you do need to start working back a little bit more for virtual events than, I've worked with some groups that determined to have an event and have it that next week. Are there any questions currently on the marketing schedule that I proposed up there? Okay, I'm not seeing any come in. Amy, if there are any that come in, will you just stop and let me know, please, okay? So for the next thing that we're going to talk about is the sample marketing plan. I put these together for every event that I host. Once you have your dates in order, it's recommended to put all of those dates in a document and share it with anyone involved in your event. So this is an example for a lunch and learn that we'll be hosting next week. It's going to be partnered with CTL in the library. And so when I put together my plan, I made sure and sent it to them as well to see if they had any additions, comments, feedback. But I try to put together this is a smaller plan since it's a smaller event. So again, you can make these as fluid to meet your needs and your audience as possible. But I try to make sure that everybody gets a copy of this. And since this event is under 100 people, it's a little bit less detailed. There's not as much that needed to go into that. So it required a little bit less communication, but you'll still see on there's several touch points of when we email, when we post on social media, and when it goes out on key outreach things like the intercom and posting it on the Comet Calendar. So if you're not familiar with those are great strategies to ensure that you're including in every event. And you can, from those or from the Comet Calendar, you can select your audience. So you can say who it's intended for. So even if it's not intended for all students or maybe for faculty, I still encourage everybody to put it on there, because one, it just shows what your department's doing. It shows the ways that you're reaching others. And it looks like we've got a couple of comments. Amy, do we have something? Here. Okay, I don't hear anything from Amy, but Cindy said, one thing that I've learned since going virtual is we need to include time zone when we advertise the events so that we can reach a global audience. And absolutely, that I was on the phone with my daughter earlier because I had her signed up for a class and I had the wrong time in the time zone, so she missed it. And you do have to do that. Again, it varies by your audience. So if you're going to be reaching an international audience, you absolutely need to include that time zone. Marie says, when you mention social media, which ones? So this marketing plan is specific for my event. So I would go on all of OIT's social media channels. Now, I do know that there are areas that have partnerships, and I'm going to have to look it up. UTD also has one, an Instagram account that is run by students, and I just watched an Instagram story on it recently where they're allowing, UTD Comet Life will also share your information too. If you want them to help promote an event that you're hosting or information about it, you can share it with those social media channels. I'm not opposed to reaching out to other social media managers. I manage the OIT's pages, so it's easy for me to promote it because I have access to all of those. But I'm not opposed to reaching out to other ones. So Marie, if you're working on a project and this may be useful to the chemistry department to know, then I would reach out to the chemistry Facebook pages or their Instagram or wherever they are and just say, hey, we've got this really incredible resource and we would love to make it available to your audience. We're all here together, and the goal should be that we all share information and work together. So it's great to share those resources. Okay, Stacy asked, do all UTD staff have access to the faculty listserv? So this is something I just found out recently. I don't know if it's a secret, so sorry if I'm relaying something that was not supposed to be told. But the faculty listserv, you don't have access to just mass send to everyone. You do have access to request it to be sent to faculty. So for that faculty listserv, what I've done in the past is if it applies to faculty and faculty are invited and it's something that kind of meets that criteria, I send it as a request, and I think it's just faculty at, I'm not sure. I need to pull up my email, but I have it shut down, so I'll be focused on you all. But and I can send it later in the notes too. But it's a general faculty email address. You email, you request that they send it out, and they'll review it, and they have specific parameters. If it's applicable, then they send it out on your behalf. Okay, Cindy, can you post the UTD Insta account name for us to find it? It's UTD Comet Life. That's UTD Comet Life. And I know I watched a story from them the other day where they were saying that they would love to partner with and help other UTD groups. So that's UTD Comet Life. I'm trying to pull up their little icon, but I just can't multitask very well. So I will, Cindy, oh, look, Dennis, yay! Dennis posted the faculty listserv. So I'm going to go ahead and publish that one. Thank you, Dennis, so that you all have that. But yes, that's always an option for them to review. And then I know you can submit things for staff too, to like the solar flare to help market things like that. And then I've got one more, not a question. Like I said, it's not a question. Something to know and be aware of is marketing material and communication that goes out to populations outside of UT Dallas do need to be approved by the communications team. In addition, and so mine is always for OIT people. So that is a little bit different. Again, it does vary by your audience. In addition, depending on your population, you may need to get your marketing schedule approved by the communication team as well to ensure emails are not going out to the same population at the same time. So yes, that's a wonderful clarification point. If you're ever unsure as if your communications that you're sending, again, most of mine are kind of smaller events. So if you're ever unaware, you can send that to the communications team. And the ones that I've sent, usually they say if it's under 500 people, then you're able to manage that when I've sent for approvals and for review. If it's under 500 people, then it's fine to send out on your own, or if it's within your own department. But it is always a wise thing to get clarification from them, just to be sure that we're following those protocols and making the university look its absolute best. So let's see here. Okay, let's see what's next. Megan asked, do you have any guidance for student groups who want to host live events in teams? Well, I'm working with various departments on campus, and I'd be happy to kind of have a one-on-one if there is a student group that's needing that information. I do know that several student groups already have been using Teams Live. Oh, and Dennis added again. So Dennis sent another one too, just so you all know, there's a staff list, an email listserv that you can send to get approval to send information out there as well. Okay, man, y'all are on top of it. Thank you so much. This is what I love to have, is this open dialogue, because we're all in this together. We're all sharing and learning from each other, and that's just an incredible value that we're adding to the university by ensuring that everybody has the resources they need to do their job. So if there's no other questions or comments on that, again, that's my sample marketing schedule. That's what I just usually use for communicating. If there's no other questions on that, then we're going to go ahead and move forward to the next topic, which is Microsoft Forms. That's generally what I use for live events and any kind of a virtual event as well. I know that there's a couple of ways for us to be able to send out pre-registrations, and I value pre-registration. I think that it's critically important from an event perspective to know who's coming, to have an understanding of your audience, and to be prepared for those numbers. If there was only 5 people that registered for today, I would have held this session a little bit differently. But we had 60 registered. I've got like 55 on right now. So it's just a little harder to have an interactive dialogue when there's that many people. So I use Microsoft Forms for registrations, and I love pre-registering for events. And I realize that is like a hot topic with event planners. Some people are totally against it, but as a planner, I like to know. It also provides you a really good assessment of retention. So how many people register versus how many people attend. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know if there was an interest if you didn't have that pre-registration, and you wouldn't know where there's a gap. So before this session today, I received several emails from individuals that said, hey, I've registered, I've had a conflict, I can't make it, can you send me the recording? And I wouldn't have had that information if I didn't have pre-registration. They could have just missed it, and I wouldn't have also had a way of sending out that communication with the recording to them because I wouldn't have known that they were going to attend. So that's one reason. Another reason, and this is a little sneaky, I feel like there's a little bit of social pressure when you register for an event, and maybe it's just me, but I always feel like if I've registered for an event, then I need to be there, or like those that email me, I need to let them know. So it just opens that door for communication for reaching new individuals that maybe you don't have a relationship with, and allows for that interaction that otherwise, again, if you don't require registrations, you wouldn't have. I also use pre-registration because it helps for me to build a database. We've seen 6 times the numbers of subscribers to our email list from when I first started, because we're able to, on that form, there's the option of, would you like to be added to our email list? So I just don't capture your emails. Y'all don't panic. I'm not going to spam you. But if you show that you're interested in having that dialogue and that communication, then I will have your name on a list to receive future emails. If y'all are in an absolute panic about that, just let me know. I'll take you off the list, okay? But I think that that's really helpful for individuals to have that follow-up. And I did see one comment come in. Oh, Enrica, my team uses Eventbrite for registration. And as you mentioned, I know you use Microsoft Forms. Can you address any beneficial differences between the two platforms from your experience? So I use Eventbrite too. I typically do it for my big events like conferencing. And I think that it's a really incredible tool for event management for those bigger events. But some of the things I don't like about Eventbrite are the ads that are everywhere. You can't really control what is seen on that page. You have some flexibility in specializing it and marketing it. It's exactly like your other pieces, but you don't have complete control over that layout. And so I like the consistent looks. I design all of my things, so I have a certain standard that I like to adhere to on all of those things. And I feel like for me, Forms can do that better. It's also a little bit easier for registration, and it's already on a platform, Microsoft, which is what the university already pays to use. So since we already have an investment in that, I just like to use the tools that the university provides. But like I said, I still use Eventbrite for certain events. But for some of these quicker, smaller events, especially if they're just, for me, they're just related for UTD audience and that content, I use Microsoft Forms. It's super simple to use. It's easy to navigate. It's modifiable. If you registered for my session today, which you had to have to get the link, then you used a form that I created in Microsoft Forms. So, okay, I knew y'all were going to ask this. Just one second. So, everyone's asking, how do I use Microsoft Forms? Where is Microsoft Forms? I didn't know that this existed. Where's the link? I knew this was going to come up. So, I'm going to go ahead and get the link to Forms posted in the chat so that you can review it and pull it up. But it already is included in the Microsoft 365 suite that we have. So you can go online and open it up. You do need your net ID and password to open it up. So that is one thing about Forms, and it will capture that information too. So when you're running reports, you have that, and another thing against Eventbrite, well, not against it, but just the variance, because you're using net ID and password, it pulls up your email. So even if you mistype it, if you do that on occasion, if you're known for that, if you mistype it, then Microsoft Forms will have your ID and your information so you can contact that individual. So let's see. I'm going to make sure that we got that posted. And awesome, we've got it up there. Okay, so there's that link to Microsoft Forms. You are welcome to look at it now and just let me ramble on, or you can look at it in just a minute. So it's my go-to, but given our time today, I'm not going to go into creating and personalizing forms for events. That's just what I personally use. There's many other platforms. You can use Qualtrics. I know that there's a lot of people that absolutely love and swear by Qualtrics at the university. I just am heavily entrenched in Microsoft, so that's generally what I use. So I can't go into like the development of forms today. However, if you want more information on it, maybe you suggest that for a future session, when you complete today's survey, because I know you all are going to complete today's survey, that you suggest that you would like some more information on forms. And who knows, if it's requested, there may be a justifiable reason for me to do some training on it, and then it could get added to our future lineup. So we'll just see what happens, guys. Okay, all right, we've got a few more questions. Let me see. Okay, we are using forms and wondering how to fit a picture to the background of the survey. Do you have any experience or advice, including the correct image specs? Ugh. Yes, I've played with that a lot. It's basically, it's like this. How do you like that for specs? Kind of like this. Danny, I'll have to look up the exact dimensions. I am not a numbers person, and so I don't have that memorized, but I do have a template set up. I know I Googled it to get the right size because it's a little cumbersome getting that right fit, and then I don't suggest putting any font in the background at all in your graphics. Okay. And then in a Teams client, you can click on the left side, 3 ellipses, and then type in forms. I don't know what you mean, Shannon. The Teams client, you can click on the left side. Oh, okay. It's all registering. Okay. So I think he means when you're in Teams, you can click on the left side of your Teams app, and to find an app, you can also type in forms, and it pulls up right there. I knew that all along. I was just sending y'all the link just to make sure you had it. Seriously knew that. Thank you, Shannon. Okay. Danny, we're using forms and wondering, you just said thank you. Okay. I'm trying to multitask, y'all. All right. Well, if there's no other questions on that, then we can move forward, please. So once you've created your plan and you've created your registration, the next step would be sending out a save the date. So if you've attended some of my future sessions or past sessions, mercy, if you've attended some of my past sessions, then you know there's a couple of tricks in sending out that live event URL. And let's just say we have all learned a lot from doing it the wrong way before we realized the right way to do it. So when you are sending out and once you've created that live event, don't create a tiny URL. There has been a couple of instances when you do that, it adds a prefix to that URL, which makes it hard or can prevent some people from navigating directly to attending your event. So Teams generates a very ugly long URL, which you can copy and embed into an email so that that person can click it. If you've attended my sessions like today, I generally like to include a button because who doesn't like pushing buttons? And people will be more responsive if there's a button that they can click. I mean, it's kind of human nature. So I embed that into a button so that it's hidden and you don't have to see that full URL and it's just connected there so they can click to it. If you're sending out the URL, send it through an Outlook email. Don't go to a Teams calendar to send it out because the Teams calendar will create another Teams event for you. It just automatically embeds it in there and people will show up to the wrong meeting. And let's just say all your bosses will go to the wrong place and think that you have not set up the meeting properly. And it's not a good feeling, guys. So set it up in Outlook and send it through that. Don't send it through Teams for that live event URL, okay? And I would encourage all of your attendees, if you don't already, encourage them to view it from a computer because we've had a few issues with people being able to attend. I mean, you can attend from phone, you can attend from tablet, but you're going to get the best experience and you're going to get full access to things like closed captioning on a computer. And so that's where a lot of attendees, we've had glitches with them and with their live events. And then one of the other points in there is I said, send a separate calendar request. So that would be if you are putting on people's calendar, like what I did with you all today, is I opened up an Outlook calendar invite and sent it to everyone that registered. Right now, there's not a way where Forms can, Microsoft Forms can auto sync and create a calendar request, but guess what? We're working on developing something, a flow, so that it will automate. So as soon as somebody submits that form, then it will go into their calendar and put that as a save the date. But right now, it takes a little bit more manual labor with virtual events of you having to actually go and put it out there in Outlook. So Enrica, that's another thing that I know that Eventbrite does. I think you can auto send it to calendars, and that's a nice feature to have that people really like. So let's see. And then I always add any other event information to staff calendars. Anybody that could possibly want to attend, send it to them, CC them, let your team know what the event is that's coming up, and over communicate. I mean, there's just not enough ways that you can communicate. So, okay, so the next slide I'm going to show you, and I realize I'm running a little bit out of time, but we're still okay right now. The next slide is a sample of an agenda that I put together. I think it's really, really important that you clarify with all of your attendees who's going to be speaking, the order that they're going to be speaking, and those individuals' titles. Especially being a new employee here, I really struggle with knowing who's who and what they do. And so when I'm going to an event and I can see that at a glance and say, oh, okay, they're in charge of this, they're in charge of that, it's very helpful. It's very welcoming to your guest. So that's an important way to ensure that they know what they're getting into. And two, if there's a segment of the session that they can only go to a certain segment, they can look ahead at the agenda and have a pretty good guesstimate as if they need to leave early or if they just need to be on for a brief period to hear that particular update. Okay, I'm going to pause for half a second. Are there any questions on agendas? I'm going to take a drink while you type furiously. Okay. All right, so far, no comments. So I guess, oh, no, see, I knew it was coming. Amber, okay, Amber says, oh, bless her heart. I sent a Teams meeting to 1,300 people, which was a disaster. I'm sorry. So when you create a separate calendar invite and include the URL for the live event in an email, what is the max amount of people to invite? I had an issue with the original meeting, resending the invite and cancellation multiple times. Well, that sounds like that may have been a glitch, unless you just kind of kept going back in and canceling in a panic, which is what I certainly would have done in that instance. And Amber, it sounds like if it was a Teams meeting, let's see, let me create a separate calendar invite. So if it's just a Teams meeting, you shouldn't need to create and send down a separate URL. It should happen in Teams, and it should automatically be put on their calendar for you. What I was referencing is Teams live events, which is what we're in now. And that generates a unique URL that you would need to send out to individuals. So, and I don't know, when you're sending the URL for a live event in an email, what is the max amount of people to invite? I don't know. You obviously have far more friends than I do, because I don't think I could pull up 1,300 people's names. I don't know what that max is, but I'm sure Outlook would send some kind of an error. But again, if it's a Teams meeting, Teams will handle that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that one, Amber. I know I didn't fully answer your question, but I can look up that information and get it back to you. Okay. Oh, Amber said it was a glitch. Okay. And then somebody asked, where would the agenda be posted? So awesome question. So again, after you send, I like to send the save the date with my teaser copy that gives people interest and excitement, that makes them want to attend your event. So after I send that save the date, when it's closer to time and when I've finalized with the speakers and I have drafted kind of the flow of the event, then I create my agendas and I send those out in the email, the reminder email. So if you go back up later and look at the schedule that I had drafted, When you go look at that, you can see there's specific times to send that out. So I usually like to send that out a couple of weeks prior and either attach it to an email or embed it as a URL so that people can have that. And more often than not, back in the day when we could meet in person, remember those days? People would come with like real paper, and it was my printed agenda. So I know that they were looking at it, they were reviewing, and they wanted that information. And if it's not valuable to people, then that's fine. It's still there. But for a lot of people, they like to know. And I usually email that out. And depending on the functionality and the usage of your website, you could also post that URL on your website, post it in your newsletter. It really depends on your department and where you communicate information. Okay. All right, let's see. I don't see any other questions on that. So that's the sample agenda, and y'all can tell I really do like to keep the information really clear and streamlined, but also make it visually stimulating. I think that adds a nice layer, just to make it be something that people would actually want to read and that it is easy to follow. Okay, we've got one more question. Oh, the maximum number of participants in a Microsoft Teams meeting is currently 250 people. Actually, Marie, guess what? They're changing it like as of this week. They're going, and I don't think it's rolled out to everybody yet. So y'all just don't go inviting 1,000 people, but they're going to update it to 1,000 people. And 3 weeks ago, I think they updated to 350 people, but now it's going to be in a Teams meeting. A regular Teams meeting, it's going to be 1,000 people. Y'all, there are so many updates coming out from Teams every single day, with new features, upgrades, and information. So yes, formally it was 250, then they bumped it to 350, and now they're going to move it up to 1,000 people in a Teams meeting. And no, you won't have everybody's video feed on it once, because that would be like my worst nightmare. Okay, let's see. Yep, it is going to be 1,000. Okay. All right. So I think I covered everything on the agenda and having that. So the next thing that I typically create and send out to our guests is or not to our, I don't send it to our guests, is the Podium guide. So on the Podium guide, which is back in the day when we actually had podiums that presenters would stand and speak at, but now I just email it directly to the speakers. And this guide now includes times. I do not include times when I am sending it to my general audience, because if somebody needs to be cut short, or if anything were to happen, I want that flexibility and that fluidity with my event, so that we can shorten or adjust people's times. If somebody goes over and somebody needs to go very briefly, then you have that flexibility. But the Podium guide is meant to be your plan. It's something that you would tell you and the speakers would have prearranged and worked out and clarified the times that they have allowable and what their needs are for that event. And then you would create the actual flow to determine the best way of having people in order. So I only share those times with those leading the session, because that just allows you a little bit more flexibility with your event. Okay, and let's see. Dennis said, of general interest about Teams, Microsoft came out with this page on July 8th on new Teams features coming soon with good explanations. I have a feeling that you're taking all of my social media posts, Dennis, and just sharing them with everybody. So, but yes, absolutely. Dennis is brilliant, and he is sharing some really great content. It may be already scheduled on my social media feed, so if you need to just wait and check on UTD Infotech for that information, it's fine. It won't hurt my feelings if you want to wait. Okay, so that actually, let's see. Oh, we've got one more. Next slide, please. I think we're missing one slide. So I had one other slide, but it looks like it's not showing up, which was, let's see if I can grab it really quick. Sorry, this is real life, you guys. It happens, even in live events. Okay. Y'all are being so patient. Okay, bam. So the other slide I wanted to share with you is just that there's a couple of other ways that you can communicate your event. And if you don't already know about these, and we've gotten some great suggestions too today. Comet Calendar is an excellent way you can pull up and you can see at a glance the events that you have coming up within your area or within an area that you're interested in. If you flag that you're interested or if you want to register, it'll send you different notification reminders too. So that's a great way to keep connected with your audience. I like to send out, I think we already talked about the intercom, solar flare, department listservs. You can also reach out to departments. Some of them have a listserv, not all of them do, but it can be really helpful if you know of one and you want to reach out. Again, I just keep picking on chemistry, it's on the top of my head, but you can send out to like chemistry and say, hey, we've got this event, can we add it, can we partner with you, can we connect? And those are great ways to strengthen and expand your outreach to new groups. So I had a question too. If you guys have any other key methods of reaching your audience, go ahead and post in the chat. I would love to share and to be able to have different resources available for all of us, because I am still learning. I hope that I'll always still be learning because I want to be able to continually grow and improve. So if you have ideas, if I've neglected something, please share that. Okay, Marie asked, what's the best way to survey participants at the end of event? So great question. I use forms, again, because my template's already developed, my graphics already developed. So I just copy and send that out as a survey after an event. I absolutely do think even in a virtual event setting, it's important to survey. And again, you all are going to respond to the survey, remember? Although not everybody responds, which is silly. I know you all will. But I do think it's important to get that feedback to let the speaker know if there's ways that they could improve or information that may have been missed. I in no way am here claiming to be an expert. I have some information, a small amount that I'm willing to share, and I would hope that others are willing to do that as well. So I use forms and I just change it. You can change the questions there. They have different categories that you can select, and I try to keep it always short, 3 to 4 questions at max. Try to keep it around there and just quick so that people will hopefully just click and answer real quickly, just to give you feedback on the actual event. So Wendy, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll let you pull up that final slide if you don't mind. Go back to your screen. And let's see here. So final slide. Oh, Dennis says, Solar Flare will only post things staff related. It's the staff council. Yes, that is an important clarification. Since a lot of what OIT does is related or, is impactful to faculty and staff because it's the technology and the tools that you need in order to maximize your workflow and to be successful and to just, to kind of help streamline that. So a lot of OITs is applicable to faculty and staff. So that is the one that I use. And it may not always be applicable to your particular event. Okay, we've got a couple questions. I'm going to hold on questions for just half a second. Let me see here. All right, I get distracted by all y'all's great comments. And it's really hard to stay focused. So I may be the one that identifies with having the attention span of a goldfish because I can't manage all this stuff. It's too interesting to me. So ensuring that you have all the information you need is imperative to me and to OIT. So I mentioned just a second ago and shared Dennis's link that he provided. Microsoft is making multiple updates all the time. And the link that he referenced had the July 8th updates, which was a list. I mean, it's like, I feel like there's 25 things on there, new features that are coming. So it's impossible for us to continually tell you every time a new update comes because there's just so frequent. So as I mentioned, I help manage the social media, and that's the best way for you to stay connected. It's the best way for us to keep you informed of these updates as they're coming along. And so it's impossible for us to reach out to you unless you're reaching back to us. So the way that you can reach out back to us is to follow us on one of our social channels. We'll go ahead and publish a couple in the chat. And again, that is just to help keep us connected, to keep you informed, to allow you that information so that you can be the best at your job possible and to know all of the tools that you have at your disposal, because there's so much technology available and so much that you can learn to improve upon your job, that we want to make that available to you. It is important. So, all right, that is my last slide. So I'm going to go back over here and start looking at these fabulous questions that we have here. How do we send our event info to Comet Calendar? Okay, so Comet Calendar recently changed their platform. They're now using Localist. And if you type in from the UTD webpage, if you just type in Comet Calendar, it'll pull up and you can set up an admin account and post your events there. If you have questions too, I believe it's just web developer is the person that you send your questions to for Comet Calendar. There was a little bit of a learning curve for me personally with the new platform and trying to work out some of those kinks for me, but to understand how to process that information. So once you are an admin, you can submit your own events and make them go live and modify them. It's 100% on you to submit and monitor that. And the intercom, if you, again, from the UTD webpage, if you type in intercom, it's going to be one of those first things that pulls up. They have a list there on the intercom's website where it lists the upcoming deadlines as well as those publication dates. So you can take a glance at that and determine, okay, it's like for my event next week is on the 16th. Intercom has a publication on the 15th. So my goodness, I want to hit that because that's my last chance to reach my targeted audience before my event. So I want to do that final push to bring more people in so that I can share more information. So you can take a look and kind of schedule accordingly there. And would you send a specific email or is there a procedure? So hopefully I answered that anonymous. Okay, Enrica. In the theme of today's session, I have recently discovered that when you subscribe, aka download a calendar invite for an event on the Comet Calendar, none of the hyperlinks make the transition. Strange. Also, when you create an event for Comet Calendar, you can select that it's a virtual event and input the attendee URL. Absolutely, I did that for today's event. So I was hoping like some random people would just join us that are from UTD and get to learn all about marketing events. Let's see, it's okay. Attendee URL does not transition into the calendar invite. Oh, that's super unhelpful. I know this Localist platform and it is not managed by OIT, but I do appreciate that suggestion. That is hard when our systems don't synchronize because we really do want that information to be as seamless and fluid as possible. Okay, Marie, thank you for your sweet comment. Julia says, I'll see we'll be able to see more participants during a meeting, important for teaching. Not sure if we can do it yet. It is in the process of rolling out. It should be here, Julia, by fall. So I know the one thing they were working on, y'all, is the 7x7 grid, 7x7. So that's 49, not a math major. So you will be able to see up to 49 people at a time. And then they just came out with this new, I don't even remember the name that they called it. Dennis, maybe if you remember, but it's the video feed. So they take your video feed and put you in like a stadium view. Like they crop you out of your video feed and put you in this little stadium view. So when you're viewing it, you don't see everybody's individual backgrounds, like my chair and my things behind me. You see everybody in kind of a stadium. So Julia, you might actually really like that because then you look like you're speaking to an audience that's sitting in a lecture hall. So that's another new thing coming out. Isn't that awesome, you guys? They're constantly working. Microsoft is always working with us to try to find new ways to improve our business here. So Dennis just posted the calendar link. Dennis, you are like my co-star here. I appreciate you. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Wendy Thomas and Amy Walden for helping behind the scenes today. They have been helping me cue my slides and do things behind the scene and post in the oh, Dennis thinks it's together mode. See, squirrel. It's together mode where you get to see everybody in lecture hall. But Amy and Wendy have done a tremendous job. I so appreciate their support. I appreciate all of y'all for taking the time to listen to me today. And if you don't already have it, my email is Amanda P, the letter P, at utdallas.edu. my heart is here to help you all and to support you all. OIT truly cares and wants to make remote work as seamless as possible for you all. So thank you for joining. I sincerely appreciate it. Just remember, you've all got this. We're in it together. You're awesome, and we're here to help. Thank you all. Bye.